Welcome back. There are a lot of empty desks as the Trump administration begins its first full week in office, but a busy week on Capitol Hill could fill some of them. Today, for example, the Senate setting aside 6 hours to debate President Trump's choice of Congressman Mike Pompeo to be the new director of Central Intelligence. The White House is angry the confirmation vote wasn't scheduled sooner, but the Senate Democratic leader wouldn't budge.
That's ridiculous. Number one, we have never had a CIA director confirmed on the first day. Number two, there are very capable people watching over the CIA. And third, and most important, Pompeo is going to have huge, huge power. And there are issues that have been very vexing to the Congress.
By very vexing to the Congress, at his hearing, and Congressman Pompeo, I think, will be overwhelmingly confirmed in a few hours, but at his hearing, he said he would follow the law. The law says you can't waterboard, but there's been some conversation that the administration, including Director Pompeo, might be looking for some backdoor way to reinstate it. I guess, what, get a legal opinion that says you can do this, or?
Yeah, it seems that he issued a response to written questions about this over the last several days and suggested that he would consult with the attorneys to see what's allowed under the law. Much different than what he said at the hearing, when he said absolutely he would not go forward with waterboarding. Pretty emphatic about that. But yes, he is going to be confirmed tonight. The question is going to be Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State. Good news for Donald Trump. Today, Marco Rubio saying that he would support Tillerson's nomination. Also, John McCain, Lindsey Graham saying that over the weekend. So he'll get a Secretary of State. It'll be interesting to see what happens with some of his other nominees, including Mick Mulvaney, the budget director nominee, who has his confirmation hearing tomorrow. He has some tax issues, didn't pay taxes for several years, and a household employee has since acknowledged that, as well as Tom Price heading to his second round of confirmation hearings tomorrow for be Health and Human Services Secretary. So Trump may get some of his nominees confirmed, not on the timeline that he wants. We'll see the impact that'll have on the rest of his agenda.
You mentioned Rex Tillerson. He is the ExxonMobil CEO, former ExxonMobil CEO, who's President Trump's choice to be Secretary of State. And Marco Rubio was the big obstacle, as you noted, because he said he had a lot of concerns. He was too soft on Russia. Other concerns as well, wanted some commitments on Cuba policy. But Hamlet played out over the last 10 or 14 days. And on Facebook today, Senator Rubio said this, Given the uncertainty that exists both at home and abroad about the direction of our foreign policy, it would be against our national interest to have this confirmation unnecessarily delayed or embroiled in controversy. Therefore, despite my reservations, I will support Mr. Tillerson's nomination in committee and in the full Senate. Well, if it would be a distraction to unnecessarily delay or embroil, then why not say from the beginning, I have some reservations, but it would be a distraction.
Because he's Marco Rubio and he lives for the attention. And that's his reputation on Capitol Hill. We all say it, and we don't say it publicly enough, but that's what he does. He tries to do this, he sticks his head out there a little bit, and then he pulls back and he becomes a good soldier again, really, and that's what he did here.
And he really got out far on a limb here during that hearing. He was going after Tillerson, probably more than most Democrats, even on that committee. So that's what suggested that he could vote against Tillerson. But he said, his aides said that he had a private meeting with Tillerson last week at the White House, along with Mike Pence, Reince Priebus. Maybe it wasn't the White House, but they had a private meeting, and they discussed these issues. They had a 90-minute meeting. They said it was a blunt meeting. There's 100 written questions and answers. So perhaps some of his concerns were alleviated, but it does feed a lot of criticism of the way Rubio played this.
Attention will shift now to other nominees, not at Tillerson's through. I mean, tomorrow we may see the confirmation of Elaine Chao to be Transportation Secretary, maybe Nikki Haley to be the UN Ambassador. Pompeo will go tonight. Democrats keep honing in now, however, on Betsy DeVos, the Education Secretary nominee, a billionaire whose family owns Amway, among many other things, has given hundreds of millions of dollars to Republicans. Just this hour, again, more news. Democrats are asking for another hearing with her, saying that now that we've seen her ethics paperwork, which conveniently was released Friday night in the middle of the inaugural festivities, they found some more problems that they'd like to ask her about in public. It'll probably get knocked down. But this is all Democrats can do, is try to delay things as long as possible, because now you only need 51 senators. Republicans have 52, and there's no sign of Republican opposition to any of them.
And the quick confirmations were General Mattis for the Defense Department, General Kelly for Homeland Security. You mentioned Nikki Haley. They're moving through some of the non-controversial picks. But listen, I want to ask, you mentioned McCain, who was also skeptical of Tillerson, has come around. He says he's talked to him several times, and Tillerson actually sounds tougher when it comes to Russia than President Trump does. But I want you to listen here. He was on ABC this morning, George Stephanopoulos, asking Senator McCain straight up after he voiced confidence in the Trump team this question.
And I have the utmost confidence in General Mattis, General Flynn, General Kelly, Dan Coats. I couldn't have picked a better team And so I'm confident that he will listen to them and be guided by them.
You say you have utmost confidence in his team. Do you have utmost confidence in President Trump?
I do not know, George. I do not know, because he has made so many comments that are contradictory.
This is sort of one of the defining themes of the early weeks of the Trump administration, that even leading members of his own party say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead, Karen.
Consistency has never been, sort of the hallmark of the Donald Trump style. And even you brought up waterboarding a few minutes ago. Even on that issue, Donald Trump told the New York Times almost immediately after the election that General Mattis had sort of made him rethink this. Maybe it doesn't work so well. And when you listen to some of these confirmation hearings, Rex Tillerson said during his confirmation hearing that he and Donald Trump have never discussed Russia, that his Department of
He's only the Secretary of State.
that his Department of Homeland Security chief is not part of the immigration discussions. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, people don't know who Donald Trump is going to listen to within his camps. Is it people that are very close to him? Is it his family members? Is it his cabinet secretaries? Many of whom have very different views. And Trump has not necessarily, as Karen said, been consistent on a lot of these views. So where does he come down? It reminds me of when I asked Marco Rubio in October, do you think that Donald Trump will keep America safe? He said, I think the military will keep America safe. So I think you're hearing some of that from Republicans, even in the early days of the new White House.
We'll watch as it plays out. Nervousness in town. But again, candidate Trump, transition, President-elect Trump, and President Trump proving a disruptive force, keeps everybody on their toes. Up next, our reporters empty their notebooks, including the most important story about President Trump that most people are not paying enough attention to.